Hey guys, Angry Joe here, and I'm with Cameron, the producer on Dragon Age Inquisition. I got the interview. So I promised you guys, since we've done stuff on Dragon Age Inquisition before, that we'd be taking some of your questions and figuring out more about the game. But first, let's talk a little bit more about the game for the new viewers who may not have heard a bunch of media on it. Basically, I feel, from what I've seen, I was in the 45-minute demo. It does seem to me an exciting game. It does seem like a return to greatness. Now, obviously, I didn't get my hands on it yet, but it seems like we're moving back towards the origins, and we're talking, the first game, not EA Origins. Okay, that's something separate. We won't talk about that. But yeah, so with the new combat mechanics, going back to the overhead view, let's talk a little bit. Let's start there with combat. What have you guys done to the combat system?
Yeah, so we've done two major things. So in Dragon Age Origins, there was a lot of top-down tactical combat, like you talked about. In Dragon Age 2, there was a lot of action, quick action sort of combat. So in Dragon Age Inquisition, what we thought we'd do is give players a choice about which one they want to do. And the action combat is heavier. The animations are more weighted. There's more punchy feel to it. It's kind of slower, right? And even in that action combat, there's tactical decisions that you need to be looking at. Sort of, okay, well, do I want to run up to this ledge up here and fire down on the enemies? So there's still sort of tactical elements in the action combat. But then when you want to go full tactical, you pull up the camera, right? So now the camera goes all the way up. You can see the whole battlefield, and it's an improvement on Dragon Age Origins in that you've got full control over the camera now. So you can scroll all around the map. You can pull the camera down. You can zoom it in. You can pan it around and get really good information on the environment, what's going on. And then you can also hover over enemies, and that will give you information about them. So the more you fight them, the more you fight a particular enemy, the more you're going to learn about them, right? So you can see, well, is this person weak to cold? Are they taunted? Have they got debuffs on them? Are they buffed up? All that sort of information. And then you can start ordering you and your companions into different places, like hold this choke point with my warrior, make my mage cast a big fireball and take out a group of enemies that have been now clumped up, all sorts of different stuff. So there's a lot of improvements on combat on both sides.
Yeah, I was impressed by the tactical demo. The demo actually had a choke point. You guys put the warrior, the tank there, had him taunt enemies, act as a block, and there was only one way to get in, so that the archers and mages can just shoot him down. So I loved it. Almost reminded me of one of my favorite games, XCOM, where you're going in that mode, and it just felt like there was more freedom in the tactical mode. So not only did they improve the real-time combat, but there's improvements to the tactical combat. A lot of people out there are also wanting to know, the story. Let's ask a unique question. What are what's the biggest negative feedback that you guys may have gotten from Dragon Age 2, and what's something that you did to improve that here in Dragon Age Inquisition?
Yeah, sure. So Dragon Age 2 was a really personal story. It was a smaller story. It was focused on one particular character and their family in one particular city. Dragon Age Origins, on the other hand, was a story that spanned one sort of nation. Dragon Age Inquisition has gone back to this sort of vast, epic story, and it actually covers two different nations. So it's much bigger. You go to a lot more different places, meet a lot more characters, and this story is just a bigger threat. It's now sort of massive world-ending threat, which sounds sort of cliche, but when you think about this big breach in the sky, there's demons pouring out of it, all the different nations are at war with each other, there's different factions fighting each other, everyone's in chaos, and it's like, well, it's a little bit convenient, right? Like, who's behind all of this stuff, right? Who's sort of like maybe pulling the strings here a little bit? And that's why, and well, I mean, maybe, and this is why you as the player get to build up the Inquisition, this your own organization.
Yeah, it's cool, the army building elements and the capturing keeps and castles.
Exactly. So you bring in different factions into your Inquisition, spies and soldiers and merchants and politicians.
You send them out?
And you send them out, right? And your goal with this Inquisition is to uncover the truth and then do something about it. So the Inquisition is kind of like the glue that we have between this massive open world exploration game and BioWare's storytelling, narrative storytelling, and the Inquisition is your glue, your mechanism, your control point about where do I want the story to go next, what I want to do with my forces. Yeah,
it's one consistent story. We're not jumping between different parts in time.
No, that's right. It's one consistent story.
They're branching paths, like multiple endings. People love that in the first game.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a number of things on that point. So one, there is absolutely branching decisions throughout the game. So part of the demo that you saw at E3 was the result of one of those branching choices. So there's hours of content set aside, particularly for different decisions that you're going to make through the game. And what's cool about it is that not only do you get to experience that content for making one choice, but you get to see the consequences of you not making the other choice, right? So there's a lot of content, exclusive content like that. And then there's a lot of variations that happen through the game, different decisions and actions you're going to take that's going to affect the ending and how that plays out. So
the ending is affected. There's multiple endings.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's tons of different variations that impact the ending. There's a lot of major ones and also lots of minor ones, right? Like who do I romance and what happened to this particular character. So
getting to that, like so we got one question from Twitter, Sarah. People wanted to know if that's a female romance option.
Absolutely, it's a female-only romance option. Yes.
Option. Okay. Now, earlier you talked about it's an open world experience. This is something new for you guys. It's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. But come on, how open world is it? Are we on guided paths? Are there invisible walls here? Explain a little bit more about how difficult that transition was and if it's actually real.
Yeah, it's actually real. So what we've done, because as I mentioned before, the story covers 2 different nations. It's that big of a story. And those nations in the world of Thedas are thousands of miles apart. So it's not like we can make a game with thousands of square kilometers, right? So what we've done is we've taken the best parts of those 2 nations and made areas which are these massive open world areas, and each one is unique. Each one's themed, so I can go to these sun-baked deserts, and when I go there it feels like a desert, right? And then I can go to the top of snow-capped mountains, and it feels like that. And what we didn't want to do is have players run from the top of snow-capped mountains to a desert in 5 minutes. Like, that doesn't make sense to us. So we're like, screw that. We want each area to be unique, to feel different, to play different, and we want a lot of variety. So like I said, deserts, snow-capped mountains, creepy like bogs, there's these like frozen forests, it's all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. So
yeah, and speaking of the world and the characters within the world, are we going to be meeting some characters from the original game that may show up, or what happened to Morgana, or an interesting question I got from you guys, her sister? There's lots of different characters. Are we going to be returning any of those returning?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of returning characters.
Like who?
so Morrigan's back. Liliana, who you saw, she was from Dragon Age Origins, so she's now she plays a really big part in the game, and you saw her being tortured and the consequences of you sending her into that particular mission. We've got Varric back. So Varric's the dwarf guy with the big crossbow from DA2. Cassandra's back. They've been traveling together for.
He's got some stories to tell, and Morgana too.
He's a storyteller, that boy. Yeah. So. So it's going to be really interesting to see the interplay between the different characters, both the old characters and all the new characters as well. Like there's Iron Bull, that warrior that saw with the guy with the big horns, like he's a total badass.
Being BioWare, these character stories, you develop personal relationships. Everybody had their favorites, so they wanted to see some of these people come back. And that leads into the second question the next question is that, are these people going to possibly die? Because we're building up to some sort of massive battle with the demon hordes. You're always closing these rifts. They're called rips in time, but the mechanic is similar. There's like a rift dynamic, and it spawns monsters. You kill them, and you close the rift. So there has to be some sort of final battle. Is it like Mass Effect, is ending where you get together a party, you choose who does what, and there's a possibility of people dying and not making through. And if you make all the right decisions, everybody can live, or everybody dies. Are we going to see that?
So it's not the same as Mass Effect. It's not like that. But how do I say this without spoiling anything? The decisions that you make along the course of the game will affect the final battles, and there are some really interesting twists through the course of the game with the characters that you regularly play with. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, how long of an experience can we expect for the game?
So from the open world side, just getting lost in the world, 100 hours or more, easily. Then in addition to that, then there's the BioWare storytelling. So that's like sort of 40, 50 hours of like narrative, meaty kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Included that 100 hours with that, because what about collectibles and that kind of thing?
It's all well. That's a lot of
Side quests.
Yeah, that's all the sort of side quests and exploration and stuff like that. That's all just player-driven goals, you know. So that could be a couple, 100 hours. There's enough content in there for them to get lost and explore that much. But yeah, the Bioware, the narrative is in addition to that. So this is a big, big game. It's taken us years to make it, but I've had a ball making it. So
Yeah, it looks amazing, and it's Dragon Age, and we're finally battling dragons. There's tons of dragons. You've seen it in the trailers, right? I've seen a battle with it. It was cool, really impressive. How many are we? So we're going to be fighting dragons, obviously, a bunch of dragons, right?
yeah, I think we've got around 20 at the moment in the game. There could be more, may change, but I think right now it's about 20. And for the first time, you can actually target the individual limbs of the dragon, so you can knock down its legs, it'll fall over and collapse.
You knock its wings off so it doesn't fly away.
That'd be cool, but no, like that. Like I don't.
My tactical mind immediately goes for weaken that thing so it stays here and I get my trophy.
Exactly, it's kind of like rip the wings off like a fly, right? Yeah, you're a cruel man. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, and we'll see you guys on the next Angry Joe Show.
You will break. I will die first.